The views and opinions of the bunker are that of the... And that... What? The views and opinions of the bunker are... That of those individuals taking part, and by no means a reflection of the university, gallery north, and sometimes the individuals themselves. Hi.
Got out there eventually.
Yeah, that just wrote so badly.
Who wrote that?
It's written so badly.
Ed Lawrence.
I can't handwriting.
That's me. We're not.
I can't read it.
Oh, sorry, I do have quite bad handwriting. I'm sorry.
So today we're going to be talking about ownership and authorship and what that means, because I don't really know, so it'll be quite cool. To find out, come here every week and I know what it is, going up a little bit better. So yeah, we'll introduce some guests. We've got Georgia. Actually, no, you guys do it anyway. Yeah. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, my name's Georgia and I'm currently studying at Northumbria University on the BA Fine Art in my third year.
What do you do, Georgia?
So my practice mainly looks at social engagement, participation and performance. So I work mainly outside of the university with workshops, films, documented kind of style.
Cool.
Hi, I'm Robin. I'm also on the BA Fine Art course in third year. I do performance and text work which centre around boundaries and whether they're private and public and who controls them. I think that makes sense.
That made perfect sense, Robin.
Yeah, smashed it.
Well done.
Hello, I'm Dominic. I study journalism honours at Teesside University. I don't really do very much. I write about artists and bands and stuff.
Cool. And in your journalism, do you just do written work or do you do...
No, we do multimedia as well, so we do work with audio and visual, like cameras, etc.
Very exciting.
And we're obviously the bunker.
Oh, yeah.
Charlie.
Key.
Olivia. Sophie.
And Ed has just left the room.
Ed has just left the room. Again.
No, I think he's sorting the stream.
Hey, where's he go? Like this?
Yesterday.
He was like, oh, somebody block the toilet. I swear to God it's him, man. I swear now it's him.
Anyway, so, okay, cool. We are talking about ownership and authorship today. And Ed, maybe we could hand over to you in Dictionary Corner.
So, ownership versus authorship. Ownership first is ownership, the act, state, or right of possession or possessing something. So, like to own something. I guess the shipping of own. Authorship, the state or fact of being the writer of a book, article, or a document, or the creator of a work of art.
Say that again, please, bro.
So, the state or fact of being the writer of a book, article, or document, or the creator of a work of art. It says underneath, the occupation of writing.
Ooh.
So authorship is
Authorship.
Is kind of creator then. It's the person who's created it.
Yeah. And then who, so...
Ownership is possessing
so
something.
yeah.
Ownership.
But under possessing, I got the definition of that too. And that said state of having, owning, or controlling something. So you don't necessarily have to have it, you can just control it.
It's quite interesting because there's that thing with Star Wars. George Lucas is the creator of Star Wars, however now Disney owns Star Wars.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So that's a good example of
Yeah.
like the difference between ownership and authorship.
Yeah, same with Walt Disney. Walt Disney created all the characters and the Disney franchise, but now other people own.
Mm.
That's the kind of whole thing about rights, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
not as in like, well, copyright.
Mm-hmm.
It's, and going kind of into the dissemination of works. I think, like, well, to jump straight into copyright, would that be
That would be an okay...
a good segue?
I feel like that would be a strong segue.
Think
It sounds like at the moment we're thinking that ownership is more of a commercial or like financial legal position and authorship is more of a creative position.
Yeah.
So
Just because you create something doesn't mean you have to own it.
yeah, because so if you create a piece of artwork and it goes into a gallery, do the gallery then own it? If it's a commercial gallery, they're trying to sell it, So then the person then buys it. Do they own the piece of work? Does the gallery own the piece of work, or does the creator own the piece of work?
Yeah, because it's like kind of, if it comes back to, if someone bought my artwork off me, I couldn't then just go knock on their door and go, I want that back, mate. Like, I made it. Do you know what I mean? They've spent money on it, so they're not going to let them know. It's like, I made it. I'm that person, but they're like, no.
Yeah, but if you've got money for it, like property is 9 times the law, so if you give them that and they give you money, then they own it, surely.
No,
You
yeah,
can't
yeah, but that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. No, they own it, so I couldn't just go. Even though I made it, I couldn't just go.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
No, you can go.
Or if you make a painting of a sunflower and then you sell the sunflower to someone else and they go, this is a really great painting, and then the artist then goes, actually I really like that and that's sold, so I'll create another one and I'll make another one. Does the buyer then own the rights to say, I own this sunflower? You can't make another sunflower.
Ooh.
No, because it's not a direct replica. It's like a print, isn't it? If you were to do a print of something, if it was exactly the same, just copying something exactly the same, it doesn't make it the same thing. Otherwise, you could forge masterpieces and so-called sell them for.
People do that.
If you put money,
But then once you know, it's not.
If you put money to this original sunflower, to what?
Well, there's a guy that's really famous for recreating massive art pieces and then selling them.
Elaine Sturtevant's really famous for doing that. Queen of copycats. Say that name again. Elaine Sturtevant. Sturtevant.
So it's kind of quite interesting who owns image.
Yeah. Like this, with tattoos as well. Tattoos is a big thing. Because it's a big thing. Tattoos is a big thing.
But yeah.
I've got an article here about tattoos. Actually.
Yeah, it's one of the guys I get tattooed off. He got accused of nicking someone else's design, and he drew it first. But before he did this thing where he was going to sell it, redo the tattoo just to kind of get this guy for this copyright thing and sell it dead cheap for the rest of the time he's tattooing, like eternity basically. But before he did that, he'd already tattooed it on someone else, so he went and asked the person who tattooed it on if it was alright for him to start reselling it. Because I guess she's bought it and like the design's his.
Yeah.
But now she's bought it, it becomes hers.
Yeah, but does it, because some tattoo artists don't go and ask, they kind of just say, I've got these designs, you can come in for this.
Yeah.
Which is hard, because then like, some people don't mind that, and some people don't want something that someone else has, but then say you brought your own drawing to the artist.
Yeah.
And they create the tattoo on you, could they then take that drawing and put that on someone else?
No, because I'm paying them to draw it, so in effect I'm still taking ownership of the idea. I'm the creator and the owner, because I'm paid for it. I know that like if say like a tattoo artist does it as a flash, and if I buy something from the flash, like for 30, 40 quid or whatever, they will then take out the flash, no one else can get that tattooed after that.
Really?
Yeah.
There's Mike Tyson. He has the tattoo around his eyes, or around one eye, and in Hangover 2 or 3, Ed Helms' character had that tattoo, and Mike Tyson was like, you can't use it, even though it was a reference to Mike Tyson within the film, saying, you got the tattoo of Mike Tyson. I think he kicked up a fuss, or something, either suing the production company, and they had to digitally remove the tattoo from the film.
Really?
Like, so they'd already filmed it, but they were like, you can't use it, because
It's in
it's
the
copyright
trailer.
In the actual film?
Yeah, in the actual film, at the end, he goes to the wedding, like the last scene of that, and he says, you're getting that thing removed off your face, like, as soon as possible. Like, obviously, he's been told to say that bad thing, but I don't know what happened behind the scenes with
Steppo
what
still
he said
about
about it.
Is it?
But maybe he kind
Maybe
of.
they changed it.
Maybe
they
there was
changed it.
a
Obviously, he's in
maybe there was
They
a
could
suit.
easily change it a little bit and then just say what's not the same.
Yeah.
I reckon
Yeah.
with what Dom said there, how they got around it is like they've said, we'll keep it in the film if you get you into the film for the end scene and pay you for the film. And then it's like, oh, he's got to pay off, so now it's alright with it being in the film.
So it's like, well, tattoos and stuff, you can copyright a tattoo. So like,
Yeah.
where you're saying that the artists can copyright their design, and then you don't necessarily have to ask the person who has the tattoo on them for
Because
that.
there's always a debate between tattoo artists, isn't there? Like, I follow quite a few on Instagram, and they're saying they always kind of call out people that are using their designs on other people, and they get really, really angry about it, which is quite interesting.
Yeah. I know there's this one guy, that I follow. I think it's like Friedrich Forrest or something. This guy on Instagram. I'm not sure if it could be there's one, him and another one that I follow that like do quite simple line drawings and stuff. There's a big thing that went on with his Instagram because people started taking his drawings and turning them into tattoos, and he started seeing the tattoos pop up everywhere, like on Instagram, and he was like, it's my drawing, and people have not asked me if they can use it to have it tattooed on their body and stuff. And he's like, now every post he puts a massive thing saying they're all like private property of this person, whatever, and then the little copyright thing. I think he's got it like all legitimised and everything. So like, because he went about it. So it's like, if you see something that someone else has drawn, can you just then just go, you know what, I want that on my body?
Yeah.
It's like the screen painting. To be fair, I've got. Is that?
That's so cool.
So for the listeners who don't see, Charlie's got
Edvard Munch's Scream
on his arm.
on my arm. So is that? Should I be paying rights to the person who owns
Edvard Munch's
Screen painting?
I think it's a hard one because I think like they're definitely within like tattooing circles there is a lot of like you stole mine, but it's hard because in general in life like when like it's really hard to actually come up with something that's totally not influenced by anything, and we all do to some extent appropriate material from each other, and perhaps it's more of a touchy issue in that context because it's kind of directly linked to like livelihood.
I think a lot of it comes down to like the style and like the things they use. So like a lot of people that do like dot wear tattoos, I think they have that issue because people can just literally copy the same thing, but they've put like a specific style on that one, which I think is the difference between like happening to do something very similar, like because images are so repeated, but then doing it in the exact same style, like that's like a specific copy rather than like that's not the painting. Like,
No, it's like
doing
doing like a line or
so it's like he's put his own thing on it still on the way he's chose to do it.
And how would you feel if you saw someone else with that exact same?
Probably like if you want to get it. I've not really got issues with it. If people want to get like the same tattoos, they crack on like it's a tattoo.
If they knew you, like if they knew that you had it, how would you feel? You'd be
probably quite like, yeah, cool if you like it, that's great. Like,
yeah.
I was just thinking now, I know that a lot of people get celebrity faces tattooed on them. It's like, can you copyright a person? It's like, I've got John Lennon's face on my leg.
There's one guy that's got Miley Cyrus all over him in lots of different stages.
Yeah.
Now I think now he's beginning to regret it because he was on a documentary like loving it, and now he's on a documentary not loving it as much.
Yeah. So if we kind of like thinking about this discussion about like whether it's okay to appropriate or to borrow from someone's ideas, and we put it maybe towards the context of the fields that we all work in.
I had something quite interesting. So on that topic of Elaine Sturtevant, I don't need to learn how to say her name. I was reading a Guardian article which was published in 2013, but it was just saying that how she kind of copycatted a lot of work of like Andy Warhol and who else? Jasper Johns, and then mainly male artists. But she, in an interview, Andy Warhol was asked what his flowers painting was about, a print, and he said, I don't know, ask Elaine Sturtevant, because they used to work together on like how much she would like copycat his work, and he would give her screens and stuff so that she could do it, which is really interesting, and I quite like that.
It's like reproducing.
Well, he kind of does that in his work, isn't he?
Yeah.
But he was absolutely fine with like someone completely copying exactly what he had done. Not because I guess he replicates like photographs and then changes them a little bit, but she was, you know.
Was he like advocate of pop art?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's created a movement, and he's fine with someone else carrying on the movement, or like recreating exactly the same stuff. So it's kind of like going, there's two of us now.
I'm not gonna lie, I question how much I think he did that as a point of commercialism.
Yeah.
It's just like self
promotion.
Well, I don't know, because he doesn't need to, but I don't know. I don't like him.
You know?
Yeah, but it doesn't like make his image.
Don't like me.
What do you not like about Andy Warhol's work, Robin?
I didn't like the whole factory thing.
Uh-huh.
We had that, like... Oh, I know, we had a lecture about it, about someone going and shooting him, and it was very challenging.
That was...
I was trying to... Do you want to explain a bit
Not
more
really
for our
sure why I
listeners?
don't like it, to be fair. I just started at one point I didn't, and then...
The woman shot him and then he had to have a thingy for the rest of his life.
Kathy Acker shot him.
Yeah. Didn't she shoot?
It's Kathy Acker that shot.
Why?
No, not Kathy
Was
Acker.
it-
Kathy Acker's...
We learned about
It was,
yesterday.
no, that
Yeah, but
was
it wasn't
it was
Kathy
like
I'm going to Google
Was it
it.
I'm going back to my notes from the lecture yesterday. That was
Did you have
someone
that
totally
yesterday?
different.
Yeah,
Was it
that was
beginning with
that.
a V?
I think they
V-
must say things the
VLLE
same things.
series.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't remember.
Valerie
That's-
No, I
Solaris.
mean, no,
Valerie
I
Solaris.
mean, like, literally, like...
It was
same
Valerie-
year, even though you're third year,
Oh,
you get the
And
same
she didn't
lectures.
shoot Andy Warhol. Oh, yeah, she did. Sorry, I'm reading my notes. Valerie Solanas
Yeah.
My
shot Andy Warhol.
Not Kathy Acker,
Mr.
sorry.
No, Kathy Acker is a feminist critic or perspective who wrote about the Beat Generation. My notes from a lecture yesterday.
Nice.
but why did she shoot him? Wasn't it because they were working together, weren't they? On something.
We didn't get told.
I can't remember.
Censored.
We were kind of talking about it in the context of the way that Valerie Solanas, I think that's, or Solaris, I'm not sure how you say it, like how she was treated after that incident compared with how William Burroughs was treated after he shot and killed Joan Burroughs. He still had like a really successful art career and he's still very well talked about. But Valerie Solanas, or Solaris, not sure, was kind of like exiled from art worlds and imprisoned.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that thing where it's, if it's like, I don't know, a Muslim commits an act, it's like, oh, you're a terrorist, but if it's a white person, it's like, they're mentally deranged. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like that separation and that twist.
Yeah, it comes back to kind of perception. Our social structure influencing reference. But why did we, so why were we talking about Andy Warhol?
Were you saying something?
I was just going to say about I thought that you were going to say you didn't like him because, you know, when you're saying about the woman reproducing his work is all about reproduction, so it really helps his image for that. But for other artists, like, part of the appeal of their work is that they're the only people that can do it. So he's like kind of owned this idea of reproduction when anyone could do that. But for another artist, like, if you're a really good painter and that's your selling point, and then somebody can reproduce the same paintings, then that's like a really negative thing, and it would like probably ruin your business. So that's like the annoying thing about them, I think.
Because for one of them, she copied this guy's painting. I'm not sure what his name was, and then the collector of the original, someone who was like a big fan of the original artist, bought her copies and then destroyed them.
Oh, that's so
Ooh,
interesting.
yeah.
That is really interesting.
They were like, well, those are fakes, so I'm going to get rid of them.
Is that because, I guess, like
But
what
then
you were
if
saying?
they
But he
own
didn't
them, then
buy-
they have the right to do that.
He
so
bought
that's-
them.
Well, yeah,
Kinda funny.
but I think that's interesting because is that because we think that if someone makes a recreation of a work, it devalues the original work?
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was
Some people
sort of
think that.
saying earlier. It's like,
Yeah.
if you recreate it and you buy, someone else had it, bought it for $1 million, then there's a recreation going out there for 500.
Yeah.
Then
And people
they
can't
tell the difference, or
Yeah.
it's selling, and it's interesting, more interesting because it's a reproduction. It's the, it kind of goes down to what's his name? Goran Djordjevic? Walter Benjamin.
Walter Benjamin
Yeah.
and about the aura thing.
And the aura.
I was looking for the quote.
And the fact that he was talking about the Mondrian, it's like, it's not the fake Mondrian as important as the original Mondrian. Same colours, same stuff. And the fact that Goran was actually portraying Walter Benjamin, talking about someone else's work. And it's just kind of like that. What value is the original?
I think a lot of that comes into like who buys and deals out. Like a lot of celebrities and sort of high upper class people that buy art, that are these like famous paintings that are really expensive, I think buy them because it's a way of them stating their wealth and reinstating that they're current and they're on trend and they have this one painting. So I think personally, like I think a lot of things that come to do with like recreations are more like in art selling is to do with people not wanting other people to have it because it's their statement of wealth.
It's like a status symbol, like having a super yacht.
It's like, mine's real, mine's
Such a
Yeah.
vogue example.
I know because I read this article about like super yachts being like the way that like the super rich express like my super
I just
yacht
wasn't
is bigger than
expecting you
your
to,
super yacht.
to
Like,
come up with that.
It's like branding as well, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
I'm wearing this brand, like, rather
Yeah.
than,
well, it's like for example, so trainers, like we could buy some fake Nikes really cheap, but then why do we go and
By the real
we
ones.
like a lot of people will still spend the money on the real one because and it's the same with a painting. For some reason we associate the value being with the
Because
creator.
I thought it was Walter Benjamin who said about the aura. There was like a quote about the aura being lost in reproduction or something. So like you can't recreate the aura of an original
Art
work
is
of
an
art.
experience.
Yeah.
The experience of creating.
I think the people that buy the things that are the originals or have the ability to, in a lot of the cases, don't really care about the aura or
Yeah.
what the art is. They just care about them being aware of, looking like they're aware of what it is.
Because
Not
there's
always, but
Yeah.
There's a good documentary on Netflix that kind of tries to unpick the high-end market of art selling and stuff. And most celebrities, or what's it called? I cannot remember. It's in the art section, Netflix documentary. And basically it unpicks the whole process behind the artists, but also the galleries that are selling it, the auction people. But most people that are buying high-end art have someone who buys it for them. They don't say, oh, do you know what, I like that. They go, have you seen this person's work? Do you know what, I think this would look really good in your collection. You know, it's going to go for, you know, just over a million.
Someone with like expertise in the
Yeah.
industry. So
A
someone who works
celebrity
for, like,
would
an
hire
auction
them.
house or something. To come
Not
in.
even necessarily an auction house. They hire people to find art that they think they would like. Basically,
so is it more about what they would like or what would have better value, like monetary?
both. It depends. So a celebrity might be like, do you know what, I've got this big house and I really want to fill it with large paintings. And they'll be like, great, I'll find it for you. And they go out and they find it, they take the cut. The auction people take the cut and the artists take the cut. And then someone has a random painting that they've now been told is good and worth money.
it's like if you watch that programme that's like, I can't remember what it's called, but it's like the most expensive things you can buy. And they do like different ones, they do like Christmas specials and stuff like that. All of it is about these people they hire to buy things for them, where they have like actually no idea really what they've got. So like they have like events that they go to, but the actual people paying people to buy them for them never go. And the other people just go and buy things for them, and then they say this is in your new house, like your second house or something. And it's like all this stuff that they've like accumulated that actually they don't even really see or know where it's come from or what. It's just
I think this idea of the aura, that is like the original has an aura, it's not even a real thing, it's just to generate hype generation, and the fact that things have developed over time, like everything starts at ground zero, it's only just the fact that people talk to each other and go, oh my god, this is amazing, and eventually it develops an aura, when in reality the aura doesn't exist, it's just about how long something's been there, or how many people have said, oh this is great, and then you develop the idea. It's a social construction more than an actual thing. It's like seeing a waterfall, like rather than it being now not seeing a waterfall. I was trying to think of an analogy that explains the difference.
Also, Walter Benjamin talks about the aura as is becoming more accessible. So it's the fact that if you go and see a waterfall, or you can get a poster of Niagara Falls, or a painting can be a poster, or a book can be a paperback cheap off the shelf, or an ebook or something like this. It's more reproducible. It says here, the aura is an effect of a work of art being uniquely present in time and space. So it's about the originality, that first author, like seeing that first piece rather than the reproduction.
what are we saying that an aura is though? Like,
if you didn't know that the reproduction was a reproduction, then it wouldn't. The aura would be the same, surely. You'd be like, whoa, I've seen it. As long as it was in person, you'd be like, whoa.
I guess the aura is like where you can see like the care Or oh wait, are we talking? I think we're talking about paintings.
I think it's
I
more
just
like
think
it's
what
a,
the
I don't
aura
think
is.
the aura is like a literal physical visual thing. I think it's like more metaphorical.
Like a
And
feeling
it's
you
a
have.
sense of like, I don't know what other word to use than like mystique or
For the
magic.
person
So
to make it, or-
this was
Yeah,
the
who's
thing
it
that
for?
was created, and it kind of harks back to that the idea of the artist as like this lone creator who kind of makes something, and because their hand touched it.
The genius.
And yeah, that whole like artist
Yeah.
genius individual trope.
Like
Definition of
Mona
art.
Lisa having like wall like you can't go into a chair.
Yeah,
Like that
so
whole
there's-
mystique and like
yeah.
those people
Yeah.
like crowded around
I think
it.
I think it's more of an idea.
Yeah,
But then
but
with the Mona
There's
Lisa.
a quote here, if you want.
Yeah.
Like well, it's not a quote saying what aura is. It's Benjamin thinks that even the original is depreciated because it is no longer unique. Along with their authenticity, objects also lose their authority. The masses contribute to the loss of aura by seeking constantly to bring things closer. They create reproducible realities and hence destroy uniqueness. This is apparent, for instance, in the rise of statistics. So it's just kind of like.
Also, now that you can get it everywhere, it's not, the original isn't as valuable.
Yeah, well, that's kind of like back to what we were saying earlier, kind of.
That people's desire to get the thing that's the most wanted, to bring
Yeah.
the thing that's the most wanted.
Yeah,
Everyone has it.
yeah.
I guess with what you do, if you were to write a piece of text about something that you were like researching or like a band, and then someone republished that under this kind of idea, I don't know.
Well, they'd have to say they got the source from wherever I published it. So if I published it in a magazine or a newspaper, they'd have to say. Well, actually, no, not the story. They wouldn't, but any quotes or images.
What
What
if-
if they
Oh, sorry.
only? Well, I was going to ask, what if they took the whole article?
What, just the
Then
copy
they,
and
so say
paste?
say you wrote something, because you said you have a blog.
Yes.
So say you can't have a piece that you'd written on your blog, and maybe like a website news organisation comes across it and likes it and thinks it's a good kind of opinion piece on something, and they want to republish that. Would you expect like the whole kind of to be like quoted and their original source to be like, oh, this is a republished article by?
Yeah, definitely. If they copied what I would wrote, then they'd have to.
What if then it's exactly the same thing, but they didn't copy and paste it, they didn't like highlight everything, they literally screenshotted it, printed it up onto a wall, photocopied it. So the fact that your name is still there, content is still there, but it's then turning into a massive wall piece.
So it's getting like produced for masses, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What isn't it? It
And then someone makes money.
Like if
off
it
the
becomes a
fact
billboard
that,
or
then it becomes
something.
billboard, then it
Yeah.
becomes something else. So it's more looking at your words as a physical means of someone copying it rather than content.
I don't really know too much on that. I'd say they would still have to get my permission, and if they were making money off it, then
would you
I'd
expect
take
a
it,
cut of
yeah,
that?
take a bit of money off it, like if they were making all that.
Going back to that guy, what's his name?
The Instagram.
Instagram
Yeah, I was
guy.
just
Richard
thinking.
Prince. This is literally what I'm googling because I was going to show you it as like an example of. So basically, this artist Richard Prince took people's Instagram, like screenshots of people's Instagrams, and then put them on, blew them up on massive canvases, and then put them into a gallery.
Right.
So that was the kind of similar idea that we're just talking about, but. And then he went through a really big lawsuit, and I think he won.
Yeah, so went through a big lawsuit. Are you on the Guardian's article? So
yeah.
it's like a member of the Suicide Girls Burlesque Collective posted on Instagram that she had been told the picture of her had been sold for £90,000 dollars. Sorry. And he doesn't ask for permission. And it's the whole thing of like, if you put stuff on Facebook, it's also owned by Instagram or something like that, because they're all under the same conglomerate.
Yeah.
Or you put it on the internet, like your blog is on the internet, so it's kind of the idea that it's fair game.
Do you see that when you write stuff on your blog? Do you think that at that point when you put it out there, kind of, I guess a blog is a tool for self-publishing on the internet? Would you? I don't know. Do you guys agree with that or?
What was that? Sorry.
Oh, hey, Clara. So blogs can be used as a tool for self-publishing.
Yeah.
So once you've put something out there on your blog, do you see it as fair game, or do you see it still very much as situated as something that's yours?
No, it's not. Well, I don't know whether I'd say it's mine because I don't pay to put it out. It's not like I don't own the website. I use a website to make my own blog on, so I don't know what the laws are with what that website owns that I publish.
Yeah.
Really, but
What would be your opinion, rather than the law, what would your opinion on it be? Would you?
I don't really care.
So, as in, like, you wouldn't care if someone took something off your blog and used it for their own blog?
Oh no. Right. So you're not asking what?
I guess, like,
No, yeah.
because some people kind of see things that are on the internet as fair game for appropriation. So, like, that they could use as their own, like something that you've created, they might then see as fair game to be taken and used as a piece of material to produce another piece of work. And I think, like,
I've got an idea. So what example, say you put something, a sentence within your blog, right, and I used that without asking you and just used it as a title for one of my work, or used it as a piece of work of itself, and I like put that, like did that on the wall in big vinyl text, and that was a piece of work, and I took credit for it and said, oh, this is my work.
It was just a sentence.
It was just, but you.
Well, it depends on what context. So it could have just been like, it was a very cold day. You can't really link that.
Okay, I think maybe what Edward said about taking the whole thing. If I took the whole thing.
Took the whole thing, but yeah, obviously, yeah, you can't use that.
Yeah, just probably then that's like the Richard Prince thing.
But where's the limit on how much you
Yeah.
can take, and then how much do you own? You know what I mean?
I don't actually know how much I own, so I don't know whether we'd have to ask. I don't know whether you'd have to ask me or you'd have to ask the website about my blog.
But less like legally, more like
Morally?
It's all kind
morally,
of
or like as a feeling. How much do
Philosophically.
you feel that you own? Do you feel a sense of authorship
Putting
over
big
the
words
work
on.
that you put out there on the internet?
Yes, because it's got my name on it. It's got my name on it, so it's on my blog.
So another question, I guess, do you ever post things on the internet without your name? Have you ever kind of put work out there on the internet that's not got, you haven't linked it back to yourself? Would you consider doing that? And if you did do that, would you still feel that sense of authorship? Is your sense of authorship directly connected to you having your name on it, or is it more a feeling that you created it?
No, it's got my name on it. I want people to know that it was me who made it. I don't want to get credit for it if it's any good.
I think that's the difficult thing, is that Richard Prince is obviously someone from like very privileged position, really successful artist, and then he's using, people to elevate himself, but maybe people from a less privileged
But
position.
within their original platform, so these
Within-
prints
yeah.
are on Instagram and they're screenshots of Instagram
Yeah,
with the username, with the comments by Richard Prince underneath it.
yeah.
So the person who it actually is there,
Yeah.
present, but Richard isn't. He's got his
Richard.
his work name maybe on a few
yeah.
of them.
I
But
guess
within the comment section, they are
Yeah,
there as well.
he's
It
underneath every single one saying something.
It comes back as, like even though he's showing that it's them, I guess who does it benefit that he's doing that?
But I think that's a conversation as well because of his days. Like it wouldn't, those people, like if I did it, they're not going to like loads of people from home,
Yeah.
say in the gallery here, they'd have no idea that I've done that. Unless like maybe they would, but like that's like really different because the reason like it's made such an impact, I feel like it's because he is big.
Yeah.
Like, that makes it a different thing.
So to
I
say
think he's
it was
also
like
critiquing.
Yeah,
Like the
yeah.
whole content is.
I'm,
Yeah, you're a big fan.
I'm a fan of it.
So do you
I
think
quite like
the
it.
context that you're doing something in is really important then, and that it has to, we can't kind of we have to think about like each context on its own.
How do you mean?
Can you, yeah.
Oh, so
In
like,
relation to him,
so
how do you mean?
okay, because you were saying like the difference between you doing that and him doing that, and the amount of people that you're reaching.
I just think there's a lot of like artworks that become different things depending on your status. So like,
I don't know. I feel like if you did it, you'd be. I'm gonna say attacking, but it's not attacking. You like utilising people who are possibly on the same level as you. So to the users of Instagram, people you follow, maybe you'll have a few celebrities, but like you'll be kind of reaching people that are of your own I don't know. Whereas like Richard Prince is from a kind of different status, so it's like he's more swooping down, whereas I feel like if I don't know, I don't know how that changes it.
It's kind of like he's going, I will use you because I am this person.
Yeah. Does it have that feeling, or maybe that changes it from like if we were to do it?
Could it compare quite nicely to the Andy Warhol and Elena? What's her name? Elaine. And that kind of mimicry of production is or like using processes and stuff like that. So she's using his way of process, or his screen prints or the bears or whatever.
Is it exact reproductions what she does?
Yeah,
I'm just interested.
So
if she's using his screens, then like
that is exact.
That is exact.
Like when I saw, so she recreated Marilyn Monroe.
So then,
and it looks exactly the same.
If it's exact, then who owns? Like, does he not? Because it's like I wrote something about technicians and like the use of technicians, and they're like making the work.
Yeah.
Well, they're not always, but sometimes they are.
That's interesting.
And like, so in that case, is she not just a technician to make more of his work? Yeah. But just because she's an artist.
Depends how you frame it though.
She's
if you're then
it.
saying
she's sorry.
No.
But what if the technicians here decide to frame it as?
Well, I think that's the thing that can be really difficult in like a lot of different mediums and across different disciplines, not just like contemporary fine art. Like whether people are credited for their work. Often artists don't necessarily credit, and we know that you can't make art in isolation. Like you have, it's kind of like a social thing, and it's a chain, and you'll either be having technical support from people, or you might be having like, you know, conversations that help you make something, and people aren't necessarily credited for that. And it's an interesting thing when you look at whether an artist chooses to credit the people who maybe helped them make work, and you know, the New Contemporaries that was at Baltic, the bit that was at Baltic 39, there was a video which I really thought was really interesting, because at the end they'd kind of very detailedly credited everyone who'd had any part in the making of it, and I think that's quite, in some sense, unusual. Because I think, again, like back to that whole hand of the artist, touch of the artist, the individual genius, like that potentially is partly why technicians don't get credited.
I was just thinking about posters and the posters that we're making for the thing we're doing in a couple of weeks, however, and the fact that you suggested that you wanted everyone's name individually on it, and I thought kind of links into this, and kind of is crediting for like, because ultimately we wouldn't have been able to do it if we didn't ask other people to contribute as well, and then the fact that we're using certain platforms to be able to allow us to facilitate it better. So it comes to the point is like, who actually has contributed to it? Is it the like just because we put art in there, does that mean we are the sort, or is it the platform? Does that have a contribution? Does that have a part of ownership to it? Does the other people who contribute have a part of the ownership? Is it the fact that universities and place in which we can advertise it have a part of the ownership? Like, because things wouldn't be able to happen in that context. It's so collaborative. That wouldn't be able to happen unless there was lots of different things elevating it to a point where it can happen. So then it's like, do you even see the point in crediting on a poster when it comes down to the fact that it's not just us that would allow this to happen, it's like everything.
But I think that applies for literally everything in life. That would apply for everything. It's just whether you feel like you want to do that or you don't. Whether it's too much or whether you're like, no, this is like what I want to do. It's kind of like that idea.
I think as an example of the technician thing, SolarWit does a lot of work where it makes a list or instructions for people. So then when a gallery puts on a SolarWit exhibition or something like that, they get the instructions, and then the technician, a highly trained technician, makes the work, because no one else can. Like, the work needs to be made at these exhibitions for the exhibition to actually happen. So it's like, but it's still a SolarWit. So where does the authorship there lie in the case that it's a technician that's making it completely? Or is it the instructions that were the written piece first?
Do you just get rid of the idea of it altogether and just say like, here's some cool art, just have a look. Like, just get rid of the site, just like, it's a, say for example, if we put on an exhibition, like collection of students putting on an exhibition, you could just credit it as a student body as an entirety.
What about the degree show? So first years help us third years in the degree show here at Northumbria, and you don't get credit.
No.
You don't get credit for maybe building quite a lot, painting quite a lot, being dependent on driving to B&Q quite a lot, which Georgia was. There's credit obviously from the artist, the person that you actually help. They go, yeah, thank you, but not within the
official
showcase, the official sense.
Yeah, the first years get credited for helping out with the. You're like to the age third year as a helper.
That's what I mean. So the first years don't get credit.
There's no like reference to them in the catalogue or any literature for the exhibition.
That we know of.
That kind
there
of
could be somewhere.
I kind of just go back to this.
In previous years, we don't think that will.
Yeah.
But we're not sure.
Yeah. Does it not come back to the idea of like your named role? So technician is technician, but a lot of technicians are artists.
Studio hands.
Studio, yeah.
So Anthony Gormley famously has a lot of people in his studio. Or Philip Dabala.
Yeah.
Like it's just the amount of work that they put out. Their output is so vast that you just need help. And just like saying again, you can't make work in isolation.
Always makes.
But what about work that just uses other people within it? So like I don't know, like Georgia's play, for example.
Yeah.
It's
And
way
like,
around.
Do you want to explain a bit about what that was? Just because people listening.
Does Georgia?
All right. So the play was a performance we did with Robin, Ed, Katie, Sophie, and Ria, and we basically all got handed a character from this play I wrote in year 9. And we had no idea what we were doing, and we just kind of went from there and we acted it out. But to me, that's not my work, that's a collective work, because we all came in with the same in knowing. We had to develop it as a group, otherwise there would be no thing.
To me, that was your work.
Printed it off 5
And you
times.
facilitated that activity.
And highlighted all the places we should speak.
Yeah, but didn't know how it was going to go, because I didn't know how you guys were going to do it. Like, if I had just said, right, here's a script, you're going to do it like this is your one, can you go away and rehearse? And yeah, that's my work, you're just the actors. But it wasn't. It was totally up to you guys to develop the work of how it goes. So I think that's the difference between a technician or studio hand, is because they do not have an ultimate decision of how the work is going to be. They have directions, and they must follow the directions.
Yeah.
Unless the artist is quite open to having advice, but ultimately the end result will be authorised by the artist.
Yeah.
So that makes it the artist's work. And then they're there to thank the technicians for the help and support instead of them being credited for the work.
But I think that touched on an interesting point there about how people involved in a work can view the authorship of that work differently. So like how I think actually like you think that in the play like we all had authorship, but I think we might feel like a bit more like you had authorship.
Yeah, I felt like it was your work that we were helping out on.
Yeah.
And I would never think of that as like...
But that's an interesting...
Yeah.
And it kind of links back to what we were saying before we started the broadcast about when you're working with different groups of people and they're involved in your work and how they perceive their you think it's like a piece of group work?
I think in the beginning it can start as a specific person's work, their authorship, their ownership, but through the development of, say, the making, that can straight away change, because someone's always got to come in with an intention or idea. So even if you work as a collaborative group, there's always going to be that one person that says, what about this? But just because they came up with the first initial idea doesn't mean that the end product was that first part of the initial idea. So it's the development that you've got to then process who has full authorship or ownership
I would
of
say
the
that
work.
we've handed it back over to you now. So yeah, you come with it, you've written it, you've given it to us, you've formed it, and that became this new content. and we all just went.
You edited
it.
it.
Yeah, you edited it.
Well, technically, I didn't edit it because you guys were like, edit it, but I didn't want to edit it because I didn't want it to become, oh, I've now used you guys for the work and I'm going to edit it to how I want it to look. The whole point of the performance was it to be how it was. That's why we didn't know what we were acting or what we were doing. The only edited bit was the trailer, and to be honest, that was just a bit of funny laugh, just to add something that was just a bit funny. But otherwise, if I'd have gone away and edited it to how I wanted it, then yeah, I would have said it's my work. But if we had edited it as a group, then that would be a collective.
I'm thinking about that idea in the context of like if you're writing a journalistic piece and then contributing to like a magazine or a newspaper, there's always an editor who maybe kind of
Puts it together.
so you might submit your work, but then at that point it's slightly out. Is it slightly out of your hands? They can edit it and they can sort of change it.
Well, no, if you worked for the company already and they'd sent you out to get the story, then when you hand it in, they can change it around how they want. But I think if you're working freelance and then you offer them money for it, you could say, well, I mean, they offered you money for it.
I'll pay you.
Here's
Please
20
put it in
quid.
your
Well,
newspaper.
and then if they offer you money for it, then you could say, but I want it remaining like this.
Right. So, but then it would be a kind of like take it or leave it.
Yeah.
Sort of. Okay.
Probably.
So you wouldn't let someone take out a sentence that maybe doesn't fit their idea of what.
Like what their
Depends
news
what-
organisation
depends
is
what it is.
about.
Depends what sort of aim they're going for though. Like if it's, say, the political story and they don't agree with whatever I've said about the Tories or any political party, then they want to take it out. I could say, well, I don't know what I'd say.
That compromises you.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that's an issue to do with the integrity of the work? Like. Have a think. Yeah. Let's see.
I don't really know. I think if they were paid me, then I'd probably just let them do what they wanted, really.
Yeah.
I come
But
back to
is
it,
that
like if
against
someone
your
says something
name?
here that doesn't streamline with our ideas, do you know what I mean? Then it's like, it kind of is that kind of what you're kind of saying about his work? If he was made a piece of writing that was for someone else, and that was his contribution to them, they were like, we want to take this out, we don't agree with it.
Well, it's like at the minute we're talking about within the catalogue kind of meetings, we're collating bits of people's writing, dissertations, essays, creative pieces of writing, and kind of going, well, actually, say Robin wrote something that was about the sunflower. We'll go back to love the sunflower.
Biscuit corner.
And Georgia wrote something about the grass. And you kind of go, well, these two match up, so you can then make something. But I don't want to know about Robin's grass, because she didn't write it very well. So you kind of edit it out, and it's not very, it becomes more of a bits of writing that you pull together. So it's, how would you feel like offering up, going, this is my
But
writing, you can kind of do...
That's just putting stuff together, that's not like it.
But
But it's
editorial decisions
Censorship.
can...
Censorship.
Well, not necessarily in a censorship way though, but like just editorial decision making can change the frame, the way your work. So say you had a piece published, but what they choose to publish that alongside, like if it's on a double page spread, you're here. What's on the other page? That's not a decision you get to make. That's an editorial decision, but that can change the way that your piece of work is framed.
Right.
I suppose.
Yeah.
I guess I'm wondering.
Like the positioning of the story with what's next to it.
I'm wondering how you fit, because I think
So like bias.
because of the way that like journalism operates, and that often like it's like individuals and then it's published by like a wider organisation.
Yeah.
I guess it's just interesting to kind of find out a bit more about how you feel about like
Obviously
the fact that you can only be in control of it to a certain extent.
Well, I mean, unless you are freelance, it wouldn't be, normally wouldn't be the individual, it'd be a group of people working together on the same story. Like you'd have, well, depending though, I mean, you'd need photos and that, and people will go out on their own, but normally, unless you're freelance, you will be in a group.
And is the whole group credited in the article?
I think the writer would be, but then the photos would be credited. It depends. If it's written, then it'd probably just be the writer and the writer and the photographer, but then if it's going to be on television or something, then it'd have to be cameraman, like, but then I don't know how they'd fit that into the actual piece itself, really, because I haven't obviously had anything on television, so I don't really know very much about how that would work, but it does, in published text, it would all come down to the editorial staff and how they want to put it together, really. Once it's in their hands, there's nothing that I can do about it. Then I suppose you could complain about how it is placed afterwards, and they might rectify it and change it. Don't really know how far that goes.
Sorry, if you...
No. Well, I was going to say, so in that case, do you think that you're the author, but that the ownership would lie with the editors or the organisation that they work for?
As soon as I've handed it over, yeah. Like, it's theirs after that.
But then, so if you get paid for a piece of writing, or a piece of artwork in general, let's open it, and kind of, then the company says, we're going to print out 100 of these and they're going to be distributed around the country. But can you also send me like the original file or the original picture? So just in case I want to do it again afterwards. It's like you sign something to say that your work will only be used up to 100.
Right.
And that's what the commission is. It's not going to be reproduced or anything. But if you then say they could use it as a campaign or something like that, because I know I did a photo shoot for a homeless campaign, student homelessness, and it was the fact that my face was on it, and they could only use it up to about 3 years. But the fact that,
so you were in the campaign?
Yeah, but they just have a picture of me. They can do with whatever they want with it up to 3 years. If I see that again, I could then...
What, after that time?
After that time.
The ownership would return to you?
My face would return.
It's a weird idea that your face isn't...
Your face.
Yeah.
I guess...
So your character.
What were you going to say, Robin? It looked like you had something to...
Just, so Alex, who's on the business course here, he's been asked a few times to do like the prospectus things and be photographed for that. And like normally they like tell him what it's for and what he has to do. And then yesterday he got an email from his tutor being like, I've used your image for these people for a marketing thing within the uni. Is that alright? And he said yes, but like they'd already sent, and now he has absolutely no idea what the picture of him is going on, which, I mean, it's probably going to be alright, but like it could, because he's doing business and he's got all his like rights to his business at the moment and all these sort of things, they could have like easily used it for anything else, and I just think it's weird because the uni themselves are like...
The prospectus at my secondary school, whilst I worked there, like, I was handing it out, like, the year that I started working there, I was handing out this prospectus, and I realised on the back cover was me as a student.
Ooh.
And it was a really, like, a rogue thing to kind of see. It was just like, I work here, but I'm as a student representing the students.
Yeah.
It was a really bizarre thing. Like, I didn't say I could, but photography comes into a weird sense. I was like, at photography, this is why we asked Malachi to come. But
sadly,
unfortunately he couldn't come. But photography is a weird thing because did anyone see about the monkey that took its selfie?
Oh wait,
no.
So
I did.
There's a monkey, I can't remember what type.
Adorable.
An artist photographer took the camera into the jungle, and the monkey took it off him and took the selfie. And
That's amazing.
obviously then the photographer went back and saw this camera and was like, this is amazing. So he then started using it to selling it to places. Have you got a picture of it up there? So yeah.
No way. Wait, let's
and
see.
he's smiling. And
I've seen that. I've seen that before, but I didn't know.
Oh, that's amazing.
The whole thing comes down, and he got either sued or something.
The photographer.
Because it
By the
wasn't
monkey.
it wasn't his picture. So it was like by Peter or something.
By Peter the monkey.
No. Animal conservation saying.
How do they own that?
But how can they sue on behalf of the monkey?
I think it was because it's about
They're saying they're ambassadors of animals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Taking care of well-being.
all rights, all like money that he makes from it would have had to go to.
It'll go back into animal care. They won't keep it as.
Like, what about that
That's
woman?
good.
They'll sue them and they'll put the money back into animal care.
Did the monkey take more than one selfie?
Really? The filters of that.
There's something I was thinking about there. It's like
Okay, so here you go.
We're just cracking off at the moment.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry, Jack.
Just about ownership of your own life. So like when it comes to euthanasia, there's this big, there's always a big thing about it, isn't it? You can't like, it's against the law, and that people say like if there's someone on the brink of death, even if they say they want someone to kill them, you can't do it. I don't know if that fits in. I don't know.
Well, it does in a way, like the ownership that the state takes over individuals' decision making, and also like you can link that to a lot of wider kind of like medical context, like the way that kind of the state gets involved in how we like raise children and things as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then another one was like, can you ever fully submerge yourself into community so you just become part of a collaborative ecology rather than being like taking credit? It's like basically is credit. Would you say credit's a good thing, or is it like, can you ever? Is it important? Do you think, especially with contemporary society and the way that, even just the way that contemporary arts goes with collaboration, is it important to try and reduce the amount of credit that gets given to people and try and use it to like benefit, as like a thing for the benefit of everything rather than the benefit of the individual, rather than like a survival of the fittest, an individual, it's a survival of everyone to take care of yourself.
I think this is like, I was thinking about the creative industry in general, and I think a lot of the time people, I don't know, maybe this is just because I don't think so much about like rights to things, but that's obviously because I don't really have that as an issue yet. But I think like the higher you get and the more the things become like worth money, or say a gallery said we want you to do this and then but they want to use it for something else. I think unfortunately a lot of the time people end up giving rights to other people in the creative industry because they can't get where they want to get on their own.
Yeah.
So like this collaborative idea can be really beneficial, because if you can start setting up your own way of doing it without having to say like, oh, I'm going to slightly change that for them, then you're giving yourself like the thing you actually want to say without
selling
and the rights without selling your soul. But like, I don't think that's always a bad thing, because I think sometimes it's hard, because it's like it'd be really nice to be able to just solely do it by yourself and fund yourself, but at the end of the day you've got to like live as well. So it's all about like how much you compromise your morals and your rights and how you want people to change things over like your money, basically.
Do you want to talk about your DIY pop-up red exhibition?
Yeah.
Yeah, and like kind of ownership or around that.
Well, I thought what George said was really good, because like what you said about that it was your idea, but when it became developed, it's something else. So like with the red thing, I just thought I want to do something about the colour red, because that's the key part of my work, and I'd be interested to see how other people just use that in their work like quite quickly. But it was really interesting because I didn't really have a plan. Like I didn't have like, I want it to be this, I want it to look like this. I just knew that there was like things I wanted to do myself. Like I didn't really think about it as a curatorial thing. I just thought this is my way. And realistically, in the whole thing, I kind of took a seat back in the art exhibition, because I was
you mean you took
so I was like lying on the floor
lie down
and I was blindfolded for the whole exhibition. So I didn't actually see the exhibition. So a lot of the way that actually ran and like developed was, I think, through everyone else. But I'm like, I think that's a really good thing. And it was never like, it was more just that I thought it'd be nice to like get everyone to do something where they take one thing and then put their own thing on it, and then that becomes their thing and everyone else is together. And like now it is becoming a bit weird to have conversations, because I don't know how much I'm to say in the new ones, like about new exhibitions, because I don't want it to be like, oh, I started that and then now this is my thing that I'm leading, because it was HTTP Collective, it's not written.
No, yeah.
Red was the exhibition.
Red was the exhibition, not the collective.
But everyone calls it the red exhibition.
Yeah.
Like, so the tutors will associate red exhibition and they'll go, well, it's Robin's thing. Or people in the year group go, it's Robin's thing, because you do red.
Yeah.
So it became something that maybe you didn't take ownership of, but some other people put ownership of it on.
I think us as a group also did put the ownership onto you in some sense.
Because we came to you for like the final decision.
We'd be like, oh, Robin, what do you think? Should we put this here?
And we discussed it actually, didn't we? We said future endeavours would go, well, we can all take ownership of the next one.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's that kind of comes to the whole thing that you kind of get through working collaboratively with people, that even if you want to run something 100% democratically, like sometimes you need someone who's kind of the nominated leader of that particular event to sort of make sure that things get done, or like to kind of take responsibility for handing out jobs to different people. And I think like that's sort of, even though you didn't want to feel that you were in charge and no one felt like you were kind of the boss or anything, it was just useful to have one person to defer to, or to kind of to sort of bring the whole thing together.
I think interesting with that then, maybe with these things going onwards, it might be easier within the group to allocate certain roles each time we do one, because then I think everyone can give an idea and not be like,
I think that was interesting because everyone did their own work. We didn't work together on anything in that.
We worked together.
Well, we did, but that's our work.
Excuse me.
Yeah, but then
we did a collaborative piece.
Yeah, but as a group we didn't. You know what I mean? As a group we didn't.
Well, in some sense we did though.
As a group, we created an environment.
We facilitated the event as a group. Like, it was a group decision. What drinks do we buy? And all the drinks had to be red, and all the food had to be red.
And how we advertised it.
Yeah.
And how we went about it.
So it was interesting because in different ways, like different parts of the exhibition were kind of had group authorship, and some parts had more of an individual authorship within the whole same event.
So because actually I worked with Sophie on one bit.
Yeah.
You worked with Sophie on one bit.
Ian helped Lizzie film hers. Lizzie helped film hers.
Yeah.
I like this idea of ecology within it. That's like, just, rather than having, it comes back to the self-preservation, and like that kind of fits in with people, because it comes back to like what you've been told, I guess. There's like, for a lot of people, it's like, you have to take care of yourself, and like, if you get there by yourself, it's like, it's a total farce, all a lie really. But like, thinking about things in ecology in a way you benefit yourself by benefiting other people. You help everyone push each other, and then in turn it benefits you. So you don't necessarily, and then it comes down to it, like, do you necessarily need to be credited if you're going to get benefit? If you're going to get the benefit anyway, in some way, shape or form.
So with that kind of idea, George's interlude goes under the name interlude. Doesn't go under the name of Georgia Bates's workshops.
Yeah.
Kind of like, it's there to benefit whoever turns up, would you say?
Yeah.
You kind of don't take ownership of the fact that the event... so going as well back to your play thing, you're putting on a workshop through interlude, and it's... You don't
Is
know
it
what's gonna
just your
happen.
workshops? Do you organise them?
Yeah, but
I thought it was yours and Ed's. I'm sure. So I
This is
the magic behind interlude. Like, even when I email artists, they think the whole group as a whole, it's a group.
Yeah.
But logistically, it's only me finding them and sending the emails. But all I'm doing is like, I'm just finding them. But then the workshop ain't up to me. The workshop is up to the people who are in it and who goes there. Like, performance isn't totally my thing, so I'm totally learning from the workshops as well as the people that are in it.
What do you see your role in interlude as then?
Just an organiser.
I find a facilitator, or just or both, or are they the same thing?
They could be the same thing, because I've literally got to find a place, find an artist, and then the whole workshop is run by the artists and what they want the workshop to be.
I suppose, because then obviously, say Sandra Johnston, who did one when
the very first
you
one.
asked her to
Fantastic
do
workshop.
So you asked her to do something, and she was like, "Well, yeah, I need a big space." And you're like, "Yes, fine." And like, "But I need, I want this." I was like, "Yeah, fine." And then it's like, but when you go to the workshop, it's led by her, and you're kind of going, you've lost that ownership of the workshop itself, if you get me.
Yeah.
So it's like, the authorship of the workshop isn't yours, but the ownership of the organisation. When saying that you're an organiser also generates the idea that you own the rights. But if someone came to you and went, "I really want to do an interlude workshop," would you be like, "Yeah, sure"?
Yeah, like, you go organise it, that's fine.
I think it comes down to like the kind of like the good thing about things like this in arts and creative industries is that people are more willing to, I think maybe care a little bit less about who owns something because they are sharing things. So you doing these workshops, they're like benefiting in their practice because we're taking part in them, and a lot of the time they say, oh, this is really helpful for me because now I can see how this works with loads of people, and it like allows them to experiment things differently. And also it works for you because you can like look at this role of bringing people together in the social engagement.
Yeah.
So it's like a sharing of different things. I think doesn't always have to be about who owns it, but
yeah,
it more comes into play about that when it's involving like how it benefits your career and like the financial situation.
Well, that's what
which
I'm,
is just a sad thing.
I think that very much depends on which sector of the arts we're looking at.
Yeah.
So like what we were saying about tattoo artists earlier, the ownership to a lot of tattoo artists is incredibly important. And I guess in like the fine art context where it's a lot about conversations, and so everything is quite fluid in an ownership sense, we're maybe not as fast, but in some of the more like applied arts, so like graphics, like I guess the authorship sometimes is more important because you're specifically going to get a specific job or a commission, and if someone's taken your something that you I don't know I think it really varies on the context.
I think with music, it's like music's a big one. Like you put something on YouTube, there's an algorithm.
Yeah.
You put something through Turn It In, there's an algorithm that says similarity. It's kind of like going 4 chords. Like have people heard the 4 chord song? It's the same thing. Like it's.
I think a lot of that.
Churned out.
I think a lot of that comes into like how massively it's used and how much money it generates. So like if I know like loads of times, I probably shouldn't do this, but I use other people's music and then like use it in videos. But like because I don't like really publish it or anywhere or don't really have a platform to get it massively spread, it doesn't really matter. But as soon as someone in the music industry uses, for example, Drake, uses in Hotline Bling, he used the backing track is originally by this guy called Timothy something. Anyway, and there was loads of controversy about it because people were saying, well, they've nicked off this, they've nicked off. But he actually got the rights to that, and the guy was like really happy about it. But like that, I think, is this conversation about who owns it is more relevant when it's about how much money is involved and how much of a name and how much you benefit. So the Tate do loads of workshops, and I think like if someone, say someone at the Tate facilitated a workshop, and then someone else wrote about that, and then looked into history of it and things like that, and someone used that, and then, I don't know, changed something by using or like published an article about theirs that was exactly the same as the other one, that would be a different conversation to us as one.
No.
But I think like there's within the music as well. There's the authorship of the songwriter and the singer.
Yeah.
That's different. There's a whole industry that we kind of like most people don't know.
But you never hear about the songwriter.
Yeah. But it's like there's this one where I think a few years ago now actually, Kelly Clarkson had a song out, and the same backing track was sent to someone else, and they both wrote a song with the same backing track, and it was in the charts around the same sort of time.
Really?
And it was just kind of going, well, how can you use that? Because I know like demos get sent out.
Yeah.
Write a song, like Ed Sheeran writes Justin Bieber songs, Taylor Swift songs are written by One Direction.
They all write each other's songs as well, just like intertwined.
It's because they wrote the same.
But they write them for, sometimes they write them for specific people.
Yeah.
Sia,
because like
Sia writes with people in mind.
I can remember I watched, because I love Sia, watched the interview, and then when she was saying, oh yeah, I wrote this song specifically for Rihanna, I wrote this song specifically for like Beyonce.
Yeah.
And you're like, what?
But then there's an interesting hierarchy that does exist.
But then she also sings those songs and then releases them under her own name as well.
Yeah.
But they're like on YouTube as demos. So they're never like, they would never get into the charts.
No.
Well, they should, I think.
There is depends on how the individual person doing it like feels about that. So if she's sorry, but like if she is actively doing that for specific people, and then it isn't like this is something I want to so like Rihanna's example with the release single, with the intention of the single being quite high in the charts to then release an album afterwards. That's a specific marketing strategy what they would do, but if she's just writing a full
It's more she just sings it to like demonstrate. I'm assuming to demonstrate the song. That's the reason she sends them the demo to like they would sing it. But then in itself, because she is a singer, that is like a legitimate piece of yeah.
I like listening to quite a lot of demos.
I think sometimes the demos are like better than the ones that do the job.
I would say people work on the DJs session, like putting remix on. What's all about remix original every time? I would say remix on the original. Very rarely the remix would be better.
I live for a remix.
Oh no.
There's a lot of songs that the original would never get heard. Sorry. The original would get heard until it's a remix. And then okay. I think I do. But like there's lots of songs that I was on the originals until I heard the remix and find the originals. In that case, the original person who made it is really better.
Question: do you need to got permission from someone to use their work to use them using the remix?
Stories show the guy original track for that. Like they just used it in a part of stuff, and it was nothing. It didn't take hours and hours until it went famous. He didn't even release the song. The guy was like, I've used your track to kill it. But like originally, this guy really like a track I'm making on it, like a kid, like just like because he just like pulled it.
It's like which one would you want first? They do encounter the remix first, but then if you encounter someone doing a cover of the remix first.
Yeah.
So it's just like doing I don't know, Elvis's Little Less Conversation. That's a remix. I think he actually made that himself when he was alive. That one was made afterwards, and then someone else does that. It's like merging the go back and when the actual backing track is written by someone else, and I go, that's like such so many levels of this.
Yeah, but what if you don't know? Like, so if there's a remix, you're not aware it's a remix. So, like, one thing I'm passionate about, I really like Ray Charles, and you know that song Gold Digger? Well, she's a gold digger. Well, that's originally the introduction of that is it's Ray Charles. It's his song. I can't remember the name of the track now, because that song is in my head, so it shuts out his original one, but most people will not know that that's an original Ray Charles track.
Yeah,
They'll just be like, oh yeah, and I'm like, no.
I think it's like a matter of like values and stuff like that. Like, so like, what when they reuse people's things, what it is. So like, I'm not advocating the drink or whatever, but the guy that he used, his song is like really old, and loads of people don't know it. I didn't know the name, but I just love it. But when he like did it, the man like was like really happy about it because his work was being like reused, and he was like, this is really nice that it's got its own narrative that's now changing, and maybe I don't know actually now, because now I'm thinking a lot of people won't notice it until like, even if he sees it as his work being.
Does everyone know the Trollololol song?
I think I've heard people do it.
So this is from an old thing. I think it was a film made, or was a song made as a joke maybe. And the original guy is turned into a meme again, but kind of like you send it around and it's annoying. and he hated it. He hated the fact that people took the mick, and I think he died like 2 years ago. And he,
I thought you were going to say from the stress.
From the stress of it.
Of the trauma.
But yeah, his family didn't like it. It was the fact that his face was then used, and his song was used as artistic. It was an odd song anyway. It was just him making vocal sounds from his voice. And it's how do you think, I don't know, ownership, authorship of Rickrolling?
Oh, I love a good Rickroll.
What's a Rickroll?
So,
Rick Astley.
Rick Astley. So if you're watching a film and then you get tricked into watching Rick Astley's...
What do you watch?
You send your friend like something and be like, oh, watch this funny video, and then suddenly they've been Rickrolled because it's a clip of Rick Astley.
Oh, right, yeah.
But I'm confused.
So
yeah.
if
why is that link
dead? If I send you a link of, let's say, look, watch this cat video.
Yeah.
And then you're going, oh, this is a really cute cat video. It starts off, and then suddenly 10 seconds in, it turns into never gonna go.
Yeah. Okay, that's what it.
So it's kind of like.
Then you've been Rickrolled.
Okay.
He's getting so much. Like that's a viral
And then
thing.
he came
That's
back
an
as well,
internet.
interestingly enough,
Yeah.
back into doing the tour again. So like,
That
I
helped.
feel like that's
So-
because he was president
What?
in the space anyway.
Oh,
President of the space?
So I think Charlie wanted to talk about internet as it's. Was it you, Charlie, that wanted to talk about internet as a realm of authorship and ownership?
I was just writing something down there, not just the kind of links in with the internet, and the internet being a place in which, say for example, it's a table in which people put things in, and then other people can pull things from, and then.
Sorry, Sophie's just turned into a ghost.
Georgia looks so shook.
So kind of like the table, people put things in, or put things on and then take things off, and use it to benefit themselves. And then I was thinking, this idea of like, do you get rid of credit? I'll credit people for but then I think maybe rationally, credit might be important, especially for the internet, because then in a way it works as an ecosystem because you benefit other people by giving them credit and acknowledging that they put something in to contribute, to help you. It's kind of almost like a labour exchange, isn't it? Like you've took something to benefit yourself, so then you give them credit to help benefit them. So that's kind of the way the internet would work.
Yeah. So like people who work on the web, who solely work with internet stuff that's free. Is it free domain? Well, this is the whole net neutrality and like all these acts coming through. So where? Oh, actually, I was going to say something earlier as well that might link to it. The fact that you can do essentially whatever on the internet. And I think you said something wrong where it was like, Instagram. If I did it, if I did it, no one would look at it. But it's the fact that you can do it.
Yeah.
It's like my 5-year-old could have done this.
Yeah.
But they didn't.
You didn't, yeah.
You did.
But you
And
did.
it's like, so the internet, it's like working, there's an artist that works with Google Maps and pinpointing, or cats. Like you can follow the cats around.
Really?
Around the neighbourhood.
Oh
So you then maps every cat around this neighbourhood, and you can post pictures, or it uses algorithms to find every cat picture on Instagram.
Yeah, it
and its
finds
location.
it.
That's
what it does.
So then it uses this. It's all to do with like public and how access to these images work. So you could essentially, you could go right. So this hashtag is working with Moggy, and Moggy's around this street. Moggy then goes to the corner shop there.
Yeah.
She's spending a lot of time around this house here. And if you look in that as an art piece, you can say, you can see that Moggy lives at number 3.
This is the weirdest
Sanford Road.
It's in your art.
And it's just like, that means you can find out who owns Moggy.
That's
you can,
kind of a little bit creepy.
Yeah.
But it's
Very
all
creepy.
about cats and where you hashtag it and where
But you
put
could
it.
so easily turn that into.
It's
PR
not.
or
It's
something.
about the owner really, because a cat can't upload its
Yeah,
own image,
exactly.
can it? So they're saying it's about the cat, but really it's not. It's about the owner, which then that's your whole privacy gone. But then it wakens you up that stop posting pictures you think it's just about your cat, because it's really about yourself.
But that's just like Snapchat maps.
I hate that.
Ooh,
was-
scary.
If anything's an obvious example of that being effective, it's Snapchat.
And like the
Maps,
whole Find My Friends thing. that you
Also,
can
yeah.
have on
Also,
your
if you
phone.
go on your iPhone and you go into the system settings and you go to the bottom where it says like locations or whatever, it has a list of all the places you've been on, like what time and what street you were on, and it gives you a list of like, and it pinpoints it on the map. Like, so Apple clearly have all that information. You can turn it off. I would recommend you do because it uses loads of data. I've done it as well. But like, they like all of these things are like implemented as things like Find My Friends. That's going to be like, oh, look, we've created this very helpful thing.
Yeah, it's framed
But like, that's all well and good. But if someone does get kidnapped or whatever, say, and they're saying that's meant to be a beneficial thing for that, or like they go missing, it's likely that the phone probably isn't even with the person anyway. So like, I think what the companies that use these things, the things they say they're actually benefiting, are very like small percentages of the time when they actually are useful.
Oh, yeah.
And more just to do with what they can sell people.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's just
packaged
used for
stuff.
digital
where they are.
marketing
So
because
then
that data is really valuable.
Do you think it should be restrictive? Like I was thinking, the things that get put on the internet and the things and what they're used for and how you can use them, should there be a restriction? But not necessarily like, if it's in an artistic context, I think that exists outside. I think it's just like, or maybe they don't necessarily know. So maybe there would you need to be restricted? Because obviously through privacy and protection, like there is these packaged good points of why it's like really useful to have these things, but that's like literally what you were saying, it's like a small percentage, a fraction of what it actually is being used for, what it can be used for collection of data and keeping an eye on people, track of people and making sure they know where each other is. And just like the thing that Facebook like listens to you when you're talking to people, and then it sends you adverts on the Facebook stream and stuff, and it's like, is there a point at which like there should be like, it's in an ideal society if you were to assume everyone was a good person, everyone would use things for the right reasons, but unfortunately you have to be quite a cynical person and say not everyone's like that. People are going to use it to benefit themselves or to have a destruction of a certain amount of people. Or
so Instagram have quickly.
Yeah.
Instagram have this thing where if someone publishes something on it and they put something like really controversial that then gets like blown up in social media and gets into like court cases or something, they actually have no ties to it. Like they can't be held for it because it's your account within
it's
that.
like a disclaimer.
Which is, I think it's really interesting because they're like creating this platform for people to voice them, which I really like, but then like also are taking no responsibility at all
but
to do with it.
at the same time you're talking about Instagram, but like then there's like individual people who would be held accountable.
Yeah, but
and
it's like social media and like how much accountability they have to moderate.
Yeah,
users'
but if
content.
they get taken to court, who goes to court? It's like individual people.
Yeah,
owning
this is what they do.
and
In
that's
this
a
is
lot
what they do
of
in this
thing that they
case. It's the
use.
individual.
That they disassociate themselves from the platform they created.
Yeah, but it's interesting as well the way that moderation works on social media, because often it's very like political what gets moderated and what doesn't. You know, like if a woman posts a picture with her nipples, that will get taken down, but like scenes of like violent things happening don't get taken down. You
That's
know,
a weird algorithm, right? Because
Yeah.
nipples are nipples, but male
it's
nipples
not
are
necessarily an algorithm. Sometimes it's actual moderators and people reporting pictures.
But there
And
are
that's
also algorithms that go through.
but that's deemed against.
There is
Sort of like capture.
another documentary. There is a moderator thing, so it's called The Dark Side of the Web, Netflix.
Oh, yeah. Ooh.
And basically there's a person for Google that sits there and they will type things in like cat. And if when you type in cat someone's bum comes up, then she will or he will report that, and that will get taken down. So that's how Google, for one, makes sure that when you search something, the appropriate image or search engine comes up. Search site, not search engine.
How
Yeah,
do
is
people... Oh, sorry.
If it's Google, it's quite different, isn't it? Because I guess
It's always political who makes that decision of what's appropriate and what is inappropriate.
Yeah.
And I think I don't know, like.
How do people feel now that Louis just stood outside the gallery and took our picture? And
Hey,
it's
Louis.
probably going to end up on Gallery North.
I'm suing.
Gallery
I didn't
North's
even know that.
Instagram account.
Not happy.
And the fact that then if you count it as the bunker only exists around Gallery North at the minute.
Louis.
Like location-wise. And it's like we don't have any control over that.
yeah, I was thinking as well, like we were all quite open to having off like we at the bunker and we're these people, and I was thinking like maybe the bunker isn't necessarily just us 5, because it wouldn't happen if it wasn't for people coming out. It wouldn't happen if it was Gale, if it wasn't for the university, it wasn't for the gallery. So like maybe do you know what I mean? Like,
well, I think a good chat would. I mean, I don't know what. Because obviously for you guys it might not be as interesting, but like about where the authorship and the ownership of this, what we're actually doing, lies. So I guess there's a lot of questions. Like you've come on here, you're chatting to us. Where do you see the authorship? Is the authorship with you and what you're saying? Is it with us because we've invited you, or is it with Gallery North because we're in Gallery North? Is it with Gail because she created the exhibition? Is it with the university? Because the university.
Charlie, because Charlie's your friend.
Yeah, like. Lots of questions for you there, Tom. What do you think?
Yeah, I know that was I think it probably is owned by so you set up the bunker.
The bunker is. Put your hands up.
theoretically is.
Right.
I'd like to say
Core bunker.
Who
I'd
provides
like
all
to
the
call
software?
it.
Who provides like the laptops and the microphones?
We
and
borrowed
everything?
that from university stores.
Right, and are you doing this for an assignment for uni?
No.
You do this on your thing, and then is it
This
published
is off our
online?
own backs. Yeah.
It's on YouTube.
I don't know then.
Multitude.
I'll just ask you some questions to give myself time to think of something.
But then
Yeah.
actually,
Listeners
okay, so
take part in the
YouTube.
ownership.
I think it depends how it's used, to be honest.
What do you think?
So like, personally how I see it, I don't, like this is just only relevant for myself I feel, but like, if I see it as like a labour exchange, so that's not why I'm doing it, but
Yeah, no.
like you guys can use this for your work, and then I would see this as something I could put on like a CV or something. Not, that's not what I see it as, but like the rights or whatever.
Knowledge exchange.
The knowledge, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, so I don't see it as like a.
Active
Yeah,
research.
no,
Yeah,
that's-
but
that's
knowledge
interesting.
exchange is interesting because we speak all the time anyway, just as a group. So like
Yeah.
we are constantly knowledge exchanging.
Yeah.
So like
But to invite
So this
someone
is different
in
to that.
specifically.
I guess like for me it doesn't really like matter so much because I'm fairly aware of how it's going to be used and who's going to use it. But maybe if like a company came in and they said we want to use this and we want to put it on our website, and it was then next to something else and that changes all of what it is, then maybe it would change that. But as it only exists like for what you want to do with it, or the
Does
YouTube.
it? Does
I
it?
guess it
Or
depends how
have
you
we?
use it as well, though,
Yeah. Does it
yeah.
only exist for what we want to do with it, or in some sense, are we not the? Are we no longer kind of owners of
'Cause
what
it's
we're
on
doing
YouTube
because
now.
it's on YouTube, because it's situated in a university, it's situated in a
But
gallery,
people
it's
can't use
situated in
stuff on
someone
YouTube
else's.
unless they copyright, and
But-
they can.
No, but
until it
in a
becomes,
sense,
big,
like
but-
it's also partly owned by YouTube because you're using their platform.
yeah.
So,
That's only one part of it though, because this
Yeah.
is also live.
but like, where do you see the authorship of the bunker right here? Where is that? Like, not the authorship, the ownership. Like,
So I think the listeners take part in a form of ownership of this, because it wasn't
Because they direct it.
Yeah, they dictate if it like goes
Yeah.
anywhere, because like that creates generation of hype, which generates the actual thing in itself. Like, because an idea can be an idea, but unless you have loads of things that push the idea to generate it, to make it physical, then it just lives as an idea.
I think in that case my answer is that it depends, because I don't know, because it depends how it changes. So when it becomes like used as different things, that's how the authorship and ownership changes. And I kind of see that with most things.
So with our
It's in a state of flux almost. Like
Yeah.
shifts and changes between.
So with our disclaimer, it's like the views and opinions of the bunker are that of those individuals taking part, by no means a reflection of the university gallery and stuff like that. So your views now that you've all said and we've all said, how would you, like, if I quoted you word for word on an audio platform, this isn't written down, this is audio, and then I took down the video, so there is no evidence of you ever saying it, and I said it was my own words. It's kind of like your opinions and your views and stuff like this. Like, how do you see what you're saying right now within the bunker?
Like,
And who owns this conversation?
I guess I don't really. Doesn't really bother me, or is it? Like, but maybe that's just because I'm very aware that that's maybe just because of like the situation I'm in. Like, I'm not a famous artist or a famous creator or whatever. so it's not really going to be used against me. Like,
You have really interesting points that you're saying right now. They could be really interesting, and they could be a pivotal point of my career if I use them.
But this is the point of the bunker, isn't it? We're given free knowledge. We've not, said, oh, you've got to pay to tune in. This is free. You openly came to this knowing you're giving free information to the public and whoever is listening. Yeah. So it is the information given is anyone.
But are you bothered in any way about how we go about using this afterwards?
No.
Do you feel any sense of ownership over what we decide to do? Because as far as you know, we've just got this on YouTube and it exists on YouTube, but say we decided to do something else with that afterwards, do you feel like we would have to come and ask your permission?
I personally don't think that I am bothered, but I just think that's because that's how I see some things. But like, say if you use, I know one thing that would annoy me, like if you quoted me against another quote that made it sound like I was saying something completely different, it would probably bother me, but then I see it as like, that's how that person has chosen to use it, and how people view that is also their decision. So that's not me believing that, and therefore I don't see that as being that important. Because
would you agree, Dom? Would you say that if we use your words now, without manipulating, would you say we just wouldn't say Dom said this in our bunker thing?
Yes, well that's well within your right to. But
that's
on the other hand, what if I mean what you said about would you want to write someone up about it, and what if I quoted use? Would I be alright to do that? Do I own this? Can I use this?
I would think that everyone that contributes and everyone who listens is a part of this. I don't think I don't like to take the formal.
But do you need to have permission from everyone in the group? So say I wanted to, just as an example, I'm going to lift the audio of the conversation and I'm going to make a sound piece with it, and I'm going to frame that as my work, which I'm submitting for my assessment.
I think it's an individual thing. So like, I personally wouldn't be bothered, but someone else
But
might
do you think the fact that you're not bothered, do you think the fact that there's a friendship that pre-exists here, that you've come onto a broadcast that's run by your friends, is that influencing that? Would you be more bothered if it wasn't your friends?
I think no, but like maybe if I was really famous, then yes, because it turns out it's been used. But I don't know, because I just don't see it as that, but maybe that's my own ignorance on that. I'm not.
I've used personal tutorials with artists last year to make a sound piece. So I've recorded their whole conversation with their permission to record it for a tutorial, to write up my tutorial.
But you haven't asked permission to use it.
And I haven't asked permission. And then I met with one of their husbands. I was like, I recorded Catherine's tutorial. And he was like, that's like really amazing. She'd love that. It's like, but
this is what I mean. I think it's really an individual thing. I don't think you can. I think this is the issues with authorship and ownership and all these like copyright things that become really nasty. I think it's the individual's core values, and whether it's a company that's using it and what people are using it for. I just don't think it's something you can narrow down to like right or wrong, because it's down to how people see their work and whether they want it to be used and they are happy that it benefits or doesn't benefit other people.
I think on the basis of this bunker thing, I viewed it as a kind of, it goes back to the table thing, kind of as a table that people put in, and because we've asked other people to come in, being inclusive in people, allowing people to come and have a conversation, I viewed it as a learning tool for people and a kind of a knowledge exchange. So if people want to take from it, then that's cool. Like if people use something art and use that as a way to push their own work or to put, like for me, I wouldn't take ownership of anything I said on this platform because it's for, I would put it out there. It's like the kind of thing with the disclaimer. It says it's not necessarily a part of the individual. It's more of like you suggest things about a problem or about a topic in which other people can then use it to in whichever way they want to help their own thinking and help their own understanding, or to use it in a way which is like.
Sorry, there's a girl just outside the window that's recording straight into the phone. It's just a very bizarre thing. Sorry.
I think though the kind of thought of going away from this and making work is there's two different ways though, because if say you make a piece of writing about your experience, like I feel like that would be fine, but for example to actually take the actual audio of this and to use that in a sound piece, personally I would feel that I needed to still go and get everyone's permission to do that, because I'm using it in a context for which it wasn't originally intended, and even though I might think you might not mind, I feel like it would be unethical of me to take that without your permission for me reappropriating it in a different context.
Would you
I
ask
think
for the...
that's
Sorry, Karen.
I think that's because you are the facilitator or organiser of the bunker. So you're not necessarily a guest coming in who's been informed what this whole process is about, and we've given us consent for you guys to use our voices in whichever means the bunker needs it. But because you're an organiser and a facilitator of the bunker, you are not just one, the bunker is a collective of you guys, so the decision falls with you all.
Yeah.
But say me, or as a listener, I could probably take the audio and use it however, because it's like, there's nothing holding me to the bunker. Because if someone was to say, go onto Google and the bunker was, on a page, it'd say the bunker, a collective of, have your 5 names. I wouldn't be on there. So if people goes, oh, is that the bunker? Then they'd know it's you guys anyway if they, wanted to research it. But I could just go use it. But you as a collective would probably have to, because you're...
Make a collective decision.
You're one person, effectively.
So then would you...
You're not 5 individuals, you're the bunker.
Yeah, but then, so Sophie, you said if you'd went away and made a sound piece, would you ask Gail's permission?
Oh, that's interesting.
So Gail is the curator of this show.
Yeah, no, I hadn't thought about that. Do you know, I feel like...
And then would
think
she
it's
have to ask someone else?
I quite like the fact that it's a free thing in which people, the idea of it being free and that people put in, everyone can just...
I think I would feel less like I had to ask Gail's permission to use it, because I think it comes back to, I think you articulate what I couldn't work out what it was in my head, the fact that because it's a collective piece of work, that I would feel like I can't then use that for my independent practice without permission of the collective. Whereas...
So are we relinquishing quite a lot of our ownership of it by putting it online?
I think so. I think we should.
If the university said to Gail that she then had to say to us that Georgia then couldn't use this sound piece, like the audio from this gallery, because it's for university, but then we go, oh well,
but we didn't
sign
anything at any point.
I know, but if we had gone through YouTube, we can't then go, well, we can't stop her from using it on YouTube. Sorry, there's a Fair Use Act, which is like a whole thing, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Go back to the whole song thing. You can't play a song for 30 seconds or something like that. Isn't it?
The Fair Use Act is something about only if you're going to transform it in some way.
Yeah.
So it's either to like critique the original material or like change it in some way. But you can't just directly copy it and use that for your benefit.
Because I was thinking about using some Kaggle lectures that I've recorded a few of them so far. I was thinking about using them in my work.
Don't say
I was thinking as long as I manipulate the voice so that it doesn't sound like anyone, it sounds like something completely different.
See, that's a big thing, because I have asked about recording Kaggle lectures, because unfortunately I missed quite a few because of Books Wednesdays, and there's it's quite a big legality to recording Kaggle, because as an artist they're paid to come in, and so officially it's like we've all bought a ticket to go see something. We can't go to a cinema and record the film, and then even if that's for our own personal use, that's still not allowed. It's because it's not free. They've been paid to come in.
I find it bonkers though, 'cause it's just like they've just said words, like they're just explaining something, an idea about their ideas about art, like.
Well, I think it's ethics, isn't it? You're taking someone's words out of the context in which they intended them to be used.
We had a Betty in the Rat conversation about this.
Yeah.
Ages and ages ago, and we were talking about the she's gone. We were talking about this transcripts, and you were talking about how they're so reproducible. You could just reprint loads, and is it about like the object and stuff?
Yeah.
And then I said, like, I wouldn't feel like the owner of the paper, but like the words, because they're my words. But at the end of the day, they're not. So I like take that back now. Can you remember?
I think, because we were talking about, because the way that piece of work is literally like, you could just press print. You can print as many as you want. Like, it has no intrinsic value as an object, because the object is so easily reproducible, I suppose.
I guess, sorry, on a different, carry on.
No, I don't know what to say. I'm glad you. Let's take the conversation. I feel like I'm going to cough again.
It's in a different, or it's something else, but the fact that when Sophie and Katie, why did I forget your name? I was going to call you Rat, but I thought maybe that was
This
like,
is, I really struggle with this. Like, I forgot your name before because I wanted to call you Betty or Crocker.
yeah,
and I couldn't,
was like,
I couldn't
my
grasp
gosh, what
Sophie.
is your name?
Well, you're becoming removed from yourselves now.
No, it's just because
do we feel any?
Well, I know you've tried to do that, haven't you?
Do we feel any more?
So yeah, we we started trying to
Separate
say if we're
ourselves.
not in costume, we're Sophie and Katie.
But you call Rat Ratty
I
when
know.
she's not in costume.
So like, I don't really know like.
And also, in Betty and the Rat conversations, we're not in costume anyway. So
I know, so I'm really confused.
this is a Betty in the Rat.
This is going over Dom's head.
Oh yeah, okay, so sorry.
Here's a
Sophie and Katie, I don't know why I just referred to myself in the third person, but I did. We did a lot of work together last term, and we did it under the aliases of Betty and the Rat. And Betty and the Rat were in conversation about 8 times, or maybe more, I'm not sure. We transcribed the conversations. We had some where we invited other people who collaborate to come and have conversations with us, and then as a result we made like a mockumentary about
the life and
times of Betty and the Rat, and it was kind of like it was intended to be maybe some institutional critique, but who knows if it hit that nail on the head or not.
It's quite interesting because they did the audio pieces with Betty and the Rat in conversation, where it was a conversation, but then the documentary portrayed the rat as someone who was mute.
I have an interesting question for you.
Oh, I didn't get to say my question.
Olivia, please, question. Robin, you're up second.
Sorry. Just the fact that I know that when me and Charlie came and collaborated with you on one of the conversations, you edited down a lot of what we said.
Because it was a 44-minute audio recording.
Like, that's quite an interesting concept in terms of what you think is worthy of being on a transcript.
Editorial decision
making. Editorial decision. So maybe elaborate on.
Yeah, and I personally edited that one down, I think.
Yeah, so
or did we have that one?
On that answer,
did we have that one?
You answer this one.
Oh, I don't know.
Other than it being a long...
It was just what I thought
was... It was that it was long.
I want the whole thing to be used in your work for this submission.
Well, I would let her, but she can transcribe it herself.
Yeah. Also, because I think some of it was, like, just too long.
Yeah, and then there's the whole thing of, like, we redact things anyway.
Where we wanted to protect your privacy.
Yeah.
So we maybe kind of took some bits out, and I'm not going to go into that in any more detail, but some bits out of certain things you said that we thought maybe you might not want to be publicly available.
But then we made that decision.
But we made that decision for you, so we kind of took that ownership of your own words away from you.
I'm not criticising it at all. I think it's great. Like, it was really, really fun. But I just think it's quite an interesting concept that we collaborated with you on that. But,
editorially it wasn't a collaboration.
Yeah.
Well, it was a collaboration between me and Katie, but not between the four of us.
But even the editing on that particular one wasn't a collaborative editing.
So
usually
sometimes they were and sometimes they weren't. Sometimes we transcribed them together, and sometimes we what?
No, just said Sophie was busy.
Oh yeah, I just did a lot of transcribing that week.
I did a lot of transcribing. I edited all the ones you transcribed as well, so I'd say in that way they were always a collaboration because they always had both of us going through.
But you can't edit the words that I never included in the originals, which is quite interesting.
So true. Yeah,
I know what you mean. You edited.
Well, actually, no, because some of them I listened to them as well and added bits that you hadn't transcribed.
Ooh.
And sometimes I took away bits.
Yeah.
Everything's coming out now.
It was 9 long hours of transcribing.
I want to ask, I don't know, everyone a question. But Liv,
sorry, Ed, Robin was there too on the question list.
Okay, so Liv, sculptures.
Oh.
I'm going off on a tangent, this is like something because we've got 15 minutes. So, as a singular artist, you have to let go of your the idea of what your sculpture is.
Yes.
You have to let the authorship of their own, someone else's ideas change what it is. Because I could come along and go, it's a spoon. Someone else comes along and goes, that's a
It's a thermometer. Yeah.
And it's kind of like...
It's the case for all art.
Do you think you have to do that?
Well, no, so this is the question, like, so what do you feel about kind of, if you want to give over ownership of it, authorship of the idea of it, or the...
This is death of the author.
Death of the author, yeah.
This is definitely.
Yeah.
So what do you think? And then we can go over to Katie. She can describe what death of the author is.
For me, it enriches my work a lot, because if I'm ever struggling with that explanation process, other people can do that for me, which I think is a really exciting concept.
Really great concept. I love it.
Yeah.
Try and manipulate. You can actually try and manipulate that to a degree where you could just do it. And I've argued with tutors about this, like, because you can literally do whatever you want. It's not like this is the idea of connotation and like stereotyping and how people associate things and how people make links. That's so varied for everybody. It comes to the point where like you can make anything you want, and it's like it's everybody able. So obviously I could give you what I say about the work, but that is not the point. Like someone else is going to come and put that into a different context. If that puts into get into an exhibition, that's a whole different context.
Yeah.
So where's the point where it's like you have to take this idea of trying to find a way in which you can lead your viewer, or you can have an idea about your work, and it comes down to like there's no point because people take that for their own anyway. You have to get rid of ownership of your own idea of your work, because it's like
I think
boils down to the fact that if you want people to see it, then you can't. You can have that for yourself, fair enough, yeah, but like you pursue your own individual kind of needs for that. But then when it comes to putting your work out there, and you have to relinquish control of that, and I think that can be
acknowledge the death of the author.
And I was saying this as like an idea, using this as an idea within my works in it, rather than it being like my idea is something else. My idea is the fact that you can have whatever you want. And it's like it just gets like there's just this like lives within a state of like would it be paradox? I don't know.
Paradox.
Yeah.
I feel like
Sorry, carry on.
I was going to say, how it's up to the viewer to interpret what the work is about, and you have to give it the authorship of what the idea is. But when you find in kind of like a gallery context, especially if I take family members to a gallery, the first thing they'll say to me is, what is it about? Sometimes they just don't, a lot of people come to view art and will want to know what is it about, like what is it, what was behind it, why have they done this? I feel like I don't want to make it as a critique on like the public as a viewer, but that's what we do. We go to a gallery because we want to see someone's work and we want to know what it's about. Like even perceived concepts of like you go and see an artist and you already kind of know what they're about, and when you go there and you get told it's something different, and it's quite upsetting. You're kind of like, oh my god, I had this preconceived idea of what this was going to be, and now they've changed it, or the gallery's changed it.
That's why studio is so valuable, and that's why I think it was so interesting when on the Kaggle slip someone said like that they see most of their like contemporary art. Most contemporary art that they see is in the studio, because that's the time when that artist statement isn't there on the wall like ready made for you. I don't know.
I think we had a good sentence on people misunderstanding contemporary art because they get taught about the histories of history of art,
the way things
and so it's the theories and stuff like that. So it's kind of like, can you truly understand contemporary art?
I like the fact that
What is understanding contemporary art though? Like that's just do you know what I mean?
Yeah, my naivety is that like you can go and interpret it in the way you want. Like me, I can't be asked to read everything on the world. Like I hate it.
Yeah.
I'd rather go and
Sometimes I quite like that.
Can we have a definition of death of the author, because it's been said a lot, and
I don't have it.
Or like you
get
seem to know quite a lot, so I just wondered.
Well, no, I just am really interested in it and
Yeah.
have researched it a lot. It's just basically, I think we've summed it up. It's just it's when like as soon as you put your work out there, you didn't like author the meaning that people are gonna get from it. Like the viewers author their own meaning, and you can't try and force people to think one thing.
Yeah,
it's like a multiplicity of meaning because every person who sees it.
Yeah.
Robin had a look at me there.
Sorry, I just think that that's true. But also, like, a lot of the time it's to do with like looking at the words separate to the person who writes it. So in terms of more like a literary sense, historically people used to view how they critique books and things like that based on who wrote it and like why they wrote it and what they did, and then people write other versions, like books about it. So like, say, people doing a synopsis of Freud's work, they write about why he's written that, like, rather than the words that are actually there. So like, a more like postmodern idea was to look at the way the words, what the words mean on their own without why they were used by the person, or like what the person.
It's like to separate the
So I think
work from the
there's
author.
Kate, in our seminar, we were talking about writing on the
That's why I
wall.
got triggered. That was seminar.
So the writing on the wall, in some of these galleries, it says such and such artist born here has gone through this, and so someone stated that they were really bored of that. They don't like the fact that it says they're born here. Is that, but it adds that context to a piece of work that maybe sometimes you can look at the piece of work and go, that's a London play. But if you look at it and go, born 1939 in Normandy or wherever, and you kind of go, oh, actually, they were there during World War II kind of thing. Like, and you kind of go, well, that actually, this
transforms the object.
Yeah, so it's like whether or not these pieces of words are taken literally, or if it's a biographical, or it's kind of like a history of the artist rather than describing what it is. And I find that more interesting. I like to know what people.
I prefer that more.
Like that.
I think that's the point, is that it shouldn't be the openness of, how I see it is the openness of what the point of the text is or what people get from work is a really good thing about art. And a lot of the time it's seen as a negative thing because we want to know what the text gives to the author, or like, which is a really good thing as well, but like, or what this means and it should be that and it's not that. But I don't know if I've made a point there.
I was just thinking about the idea of like, we spend a lot of time about the ideas of the work and the context of the work, and then but we could do this all day long and you never actually have to see any work. So can the two just be separate rather than trying to force the two together? Just keep them separate. Have the conversation and then have the work. You go look at the work and enjoy aesthetically what's going on with that work, and then separately, philosophically, and Socratically debate about these
quite
ideas.
hard to separate.
I think like our perspective is very much shaped by the fact that we kind of are interested and spend a lot of time in the context of the arts. So I think, like what you're saying, like I have the same thing. If you go with family or friends who don't do that, they're always like, what does it mean? And they want you to tell them, and they think that you will know. And we all enjoy this kind of, you can go, you can interpret it, but actually that's quite different to how a lot of things operate. A lot of things we do, especially the way we go to school, like there are a lot of right or wrongs.
Yeah.
Like we're used to there being a right or a wrong, and I think that often is why people are kind of like, oh, what does it mean? Because they want to. We kind of, it fits into our wider way that things operate, that there is like a right way to do it, or there's a right way to know about it. And sometimes also it's a lot to go in and have no context.
Yeah.
Unless you're really interested in contemporary art anyway.
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting what you just said, because I was at Wood Green yesterday, which is a project called Recipe of Life, which is part of Hen Power. And they wanted feedback on how they think art has affected their lifestyle, social skills, all this kind of thing. So through this conversation, they were saying how when it first came, they were like, I don't like art, I can't do art, why are we doing this? Some people even left. So, but as they kind of developed the relationship between the artists and making stuff that weren't traditional to your educational making of art, i.e. let's do a landscape, let's do a portrait, let's draw that object kind of thing, they started to it opened their minds up again that art can be all different things. They started to enjoy it more. And I asked them, I said, do you think it was the educational system that put this kind of mindset on what art is, and they said, yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
Because of it being right or wrong, and you're taught you either can draw or
like,
you can't
your
draw.
drawing is a C grade, your drawing is a B grade.
Yeah.
Like, you should have done more shape, you know.
Yeah, so as your public, if you're getting it out there as a public, they will come out there, and that's how they'll perceive what they think contemporary, art is. Is it even contemporary art to them? It's just art.
Yeah.
Society's dictation of perception plays a really big part in a lot of way people view everything, and like rather than thinking about it the only reason we know that it doesn't operate this way is because we're involved in it. So like, it's how do you get, it's like an idea, like there's someone that said that the education system has to be totally shifted and changed to the point where there has to be an acknowledgement that anything can work in a multitude of different ways rather than this is the way it operates, this is the way this operates, this is the way this operates. Because when you find out, when you actually get into the institutions that specialise, it's total horse. Like,
yeah.
So like, it just got to the point where it's like, it isolates things off as well rather than pulling things in. Everyone can then operate and like Ed does with any 5 fingers, puts his finger. everyone should be able to do that, and because there's this idea in the education system, this is this, and this is this, and this operates in this way.
And that everything needs to be accessible
and
quantifiable.
Separates things off rather than including things, because things will operate in my idealistic society, which I've thought about many times.
Charlie's World.
Yeah. If everyone understood that anything can be, rather than being this and this and this, and that everyone has an attitude, everything would work together, and because you can't have one thing without another thing, and like a creative process would work well within like a scientific process, and they could bounce off each other, which they do with certain degrees, rather than like, and people thinking, say for example, if they're a builder, they think they don't enjoy art because that's not what they do, but in reality everyone's creative to a degree. So
Brendan.
how to pull things in and utilise things from these ideas of human civilization, rather than saying I'm this, I'm an artist, I'm a builder. It's like, how can we be a part of society and use these things as... That was long, sorry.
Yeah.
No,
I guess that's quite a nice summary.
If we've got like
4 minutes
4
left.
minutes, 5 minutes,
So
and like kind of things that people think differently now about authorship versus ownership.
do you want to go round maybe?
I think. Dom, what do you think?
That's so valid as well, like the same.
We kind of call this one ownership versus authorship, but are they similar terms, do you think? Like, do you think we're within what you're writing about?
It takes more than you can't really put it in just 2 terms. It needs more, as I have noticed anyway from the conversations, that it's not that linear. You can't just be like, oh, you own it, you made it, because it's more often than not there's more people contributing, more people owning different things, and it's just, if anything, this conversation just confused me. If possible, even more than it was before I even knew what it was. So.
I like that way of phrasing it. It's just not that linear. Because I think that's really true. It's really not.
With a lot of things that we talk about.
Yeah.
I think
everything.
Everything says to confuse you. I think if you take the idea of you being confused, and the fact that it's not that it's confused you, it's just that you've acknowledged that there's loads of things going on.
Yeah, it takes two. It's too much, like.
And that can be an idea
it's
of
just
itself.
Not one of those things you can
finalise and rationalise. I think as humans innately want to have like a...
Georgia, any summaries from you?
I think authorship and ownership was completely different before, like the technological social age, and you can't really, it's, as you said, it's not linear. You can't really pinpoint authorship and ownership as technology and social media develops. So yeah, that's why it's definitely not a straight line anymore.
Yeah.
The only thing I don't know. I have written a lot. The one thing I thought about in this was that maybe I can think so like freely about how I see my authorship of things because of like where I am, and then that doesn't make any sense. Because I do like art and I don't really care so much about who uses my work at this point. Maybe I have realised that, for example, if Alex came on, just plugging Alex again, and talks about his business thing. And we were talking about what would people do, what would I care about if people use my thing. Well, if he talked about his plans and someone went and used that, that's a massively different name, because he has copyright to it and things like that. And maybe it's just like, I think of it as like a free thing when I talk about it, but it really depends on what sort of
Industry
you're in and how you fund and like live your life affects how your work is copyrighted affects massively how your work is used.
Yeah.
That didn't make sense.
I think next week we're doing our last ever bunker broadcast from the Gallery North. So we'll kind of like, we're going to try and touch up on every topic that we've talked about so far.
Ooh.
So
is this an extended edition?
Quickly.
And it's going to be, I think we'll
just what we've learned.
Unpicking kind of our journeys.
Journeys.
We've learned a lot from like having other people on, and like you said, Dawn, like in some ways we're more confused than we were when we started.
I don't think it is being confused. I think it's just like a good thing about us is that like people coming in these conversations is that we're more to do with like what's right and wrong. We're not bothered about what's right and wrong or what people's opinions are wrong and right. It's just that we can listen to other people's and maybe up to our slightly and it's a sharing.
Just about thinking about other
rather
people.
than you're wrong and I'm right.
Knowledge.
Well, and also being confused is a good thing.
Yeah.
Because you're acknowledging how complicated certain things are.
Yeah. I just think being able to view your opinions as things that can be shifted and aren't set is a beneficial thing to everyone.
Yeah.
Well, you're more than welcome to come back next week. And I would say next week is open to anyone.
Yeah, is it Thursday?
And
next
week.
And anyone can come and sit in.
I think anyone who's
fill the space.
Yeah.
Please fill the space, and we were thinking we might have some kind of
will there be free
interactive
nibbles?
activity. But this has been the bunker,
this is the bunker.
on ownership and authorship.
See ya.
See you later.
Thanks to our guests.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh yeah, thank you, Robin.
Thank you, Robin,
Thank you,
Georgia, Dom.
Thanks so much.
Cheers.
All right. Bye.